David did not take the number of the men 20 years old or less, because the Lord had promised to make Israel as numerous as the stars in the sky. 1 Chronicles 27 verse 23. A grace of multiplication. Today's key is promise of God. Has God ever promised you anything? One day, Balaam spoke to Barak and he told him that God, if indeed has made a promise, he will bring it to its conclusive fruitfulness. God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should not change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? Numbers 23 verse 19. I don't know that you have ever been given a promise by God. How did you take it? Because if God is going to multiply you, he starts by giving it to you as a promise. And very many people, they are struggling. They are going through serious difficulties and challenges. But if you enter in the spiritual realms of those people, they contain wonderful and excellent promises of God. This verse is telling us that God had promised to make Israel as numerous as the stars in the sky. Whenever God makes a promise, he bides himself in a manner that he cannot shortchange himself. He bides himself in an unchangeable manner, that no matter what will happen, nothing in any way will stop God from fulfilling what he promised, because failure to fulfill that will register God as a liar and as a failure. That's what Paul was telling Timothy, that even if we become faithless, he remains faithful, because he cannot deny who he is. In Deuteronomy 1 verse 10, Deuteronomy 1 and verse 10, about the key of the promises of God. If God has promised you anything, don't change that dial. Hold on to it. Stand in the presence of God with it and tell him, you promised this. You promised this. Deuteronomy 1 and verse 10. The Lord your God has increased your numbers, so that today you are as numerous as the stars in the sky. May the Lord, the God of your ancestors, increase you 1,000 times and bless you as he has promised. Let me tell you something funny about God. He does not do things impromptu. God is not an impromptu, spontaneous being. He plans. And whenever you see God is doing something in your life, it is not an afterthought. It is something He has very well documented it with the purpose-driven force of God that it must come to pass. He promised the ancestors of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that they will multiply. They will be too numerous that they will be countless. They will be as numerous as the stars of the sky. Praise Jesus Christ. They will be as numerous as the stars of the sky. What does that tell us? If we can stand with the promises of God, no matter what we are going through, no matter the challenges that we are experiencing in the day-to-day life, whenever God makes a promise, He has bound Himself with that. That even you cannot die if that promise has not come to pass. And if you can look at this gentleman in Genesis 28 and verse 14, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and it will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. Look at verse 15. I am with you and will watch over you whenever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you. No, notice here. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. Genesis 28, verse 14 to verse 15. The Lord has told Jacob, you will spread to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, and your children will be so numerous as the stars of the sky, and as the sand of the seashore, and as the dust of the earth. And the Lord goes there and tells him, I will not leave you, I will not forsake you until I have done for you what I have promised. One of the secret and major secret of grace of multiplication is actualizing or activating the promises of God. Because the promise of God is a blank check. It is a check already signed. It only needs somebody who will free from laziness and bank that check and deposit that check with the bankers for monetization. Very many people are working with the promises of God that are able to make them multimillionaires, that are able to make them be CEOs, that are able to make them be directors, that are able to make them to own large investments, employ many people, make sales that are unimaginable, spread east and west, north and the south, be as numerous as the stars of the sky, be as countless as the sand on the seashore. If only they can hold on the promises of God, because the promises of God are in them yes and amen, and the promises of God carries fulfillment power. What did God promise you? Activate it, actualize it, operationalize it by going back to God with that promise and petition God for its fulfillment, because it is the magic for your multiplication.